Hello there, folks. These are the hands of me, Dan Brown, from sortofinteresting.com, and today we're going to have a look at the EDC, or everyday carry, of a Rootless Wanderer. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the term EDC or things like this really, but people ask me for these videos, so I thought, well, let's have a go. And I suppose I do just like talking about stuff. So, for anyone who's seeing this as one of my first videos that you've come across, up until about 2 weeks ago, I've spent almost 4 years living on board Narrowboat Tilly here. Of course, this is only a painting, but really, I just thought that it might be interesting for some people and a little bit out of the norm, just to see, as I've lived an incredibly active lifestyle, and even now that I am not based on Narrowboat Tilly, I'm already all over the place, basically. So I spend a lot of time at my friends' houses and sleeping in all sorts of different places, basically. Just, I don't know, generally trying to get out and do as much stuff as I can. So, I suppose really we should have a look first of all at the sort of, not necessarily the everyday items, but just have a general talk about the sort of things that I have. So when I've been on the boat, you have to move every 2 weeks a minimum to a different area. So that leads me to do an awful lot of cycling and travelling all over the place on my bike, which then leads me obviously to have a good few spare inner tubes and a nice little portable bike pump here with both types of valve that you can use with this. So basically, I tend to have a bike pump and spare inner tubes not only on the boat or at me mum's or at me friends' houses, but also, I try, if I'm doing a very, very long ride, if it's like a sort of 20 miler, to take some out with me just in case, so that you can obviously repair it as you go in, because the last thing you want is to end up trying to push a bike 15 miles back somewhere, and you can imagine. Anyway, we won't get too distracted in this video, so definitely stuff to repair the bike is always a good one to have if you're doing any serious biking. Equally, and here's a reference for anyone who watched my videos from a long, long time ago. I had this as a gift off my good friend Jono. This is just a little bike tool. It's got all the various sort of common-sized Allen keys and that you will find work with the various nuts and bolts on a bike, basically. So that's a very handy tool, and that's something that I've probably taken this with me probably more miles than almost anything else on the table here, apart from maybe this and the boat keys. So cycling stuff is obviously very important to me, and I try and keep as much stuff also at my friend's house as well as just being with me or on the boat or wherever I happen to be based from at the time of whatever I'm doing. So one of the things I absolutely keep with me all the time is my little Midori Traveller's Notebook. Currently I'm just using it as a wallet, but I am going to be getting back into drawing and doing little sketches, so I'll be having a little notebook back in here. But basically that's my wallet, and has been my diary and all sorts over the years. Keep myself a nice little Cross Classic Century pen here. Absolutely love this one. So that's basically one of the things that I absolutely keep with me. Almost every day I take this somewhere, as you can imagine, because it's got all my stuff and bits of money and what have you in it. So that's definitely an everyday item. Equally now, what has only in the last few weeks really become an everyday item, my Leatherman Micra, just a classic little multi-tool here. So you've got it, opens up into a pair of scissors, and then as you would imagine, you got all sorts of different pieces here, which we won't get too distracted in. I'll leave a link in the description to this video that I've done on this specifically, but this I find is very handy. Now, I always used to just keep, I'll get onto the key thing in just a moment, but basically, I have got the house key to my mother's house where I'm currently living for the next couple of months, so that goes with me pretty much everywhere now, obviously, as I need it to get back in, rather than in the previous times of my life for the last few years. This was my boat key. So on here, I have the boat key for actually getting inside, have the key for the ignition on the boat, and I used to also have the 2 bike lock keys that I used on this as well. And if you're wondering why on earth it's got this massive cork, that is basically the float. So if you accidentally dropped them into the canal, hopefully you would see this bobbing along, keeping them from being lost forever. So that was obviously something that came absolutely everywhere with me, and on all the miles I'd be riding in and out to my friend's house to see my family, and of course, not more importantly, I suppose, than family and friends, but also very importantly, every time I would cycle in to go to work and what have you. So obviously, keeping those with me was very important, and also the reason that I had the bike keys on this as well was so that I could just use all of this together and basically get to the boat, open the door, get the bike locks from inside the boat, and then lock the bike up to the stern with obviously no risk of dropping the bike lock keys into the canal and seeing them disappear. So that will unfortunately soon be leaving my possession, which is all very sad, but we won't get onto that too much. Now, originally, what I used to do is have all of my keys bunched together on like one mega bunch here, and I've got keys to all sorts of different houses and objects and things on this, which we won't go into too much, but you can see I've got all sorts of spare keys for different places that I know, and friends and family's houses dotted around the Shropshire and North Wales area. So what I used to do is keep all of these keys together, including like the house key to me mum's and stuff, until I realised, hang on, why am I keeping in my bag? I mean, it's not as if it's the most heavy thing in the world, but it was the fact that it was extra weight that I really didn't need to be carrying with me all the time, which is when I started to separate out my keys. So if I was going to someone's house, I'd just have these keys on their own. If I was going to someone else's house, like my mum's, for example, I'd have my mum's key on its own and just leave these well hidden in a secure place. So I had like the central lock if I was going to some of the places I visit on a more infrequent basis, and instead of carrying them and all that weight around, obviously suddenly just only had like 1 or 2 keys with me on top of the boat keys. So hopefully that makes sense so far, and that was the really super interesting talk about keys, I'm assuming. Anyway, let's dive into a couple of bags. I'm a big fan of having just little bags to sort of keep little bits and pieces in that you can just sort of leave as they are, stocked up, so you can just take them to and from wherever you're going. And like I say, I can't stress enough how much time and how many nights I sleep at my friends' houses. And if people go away in my family on holiday, then I'll often go and spend a few nights at their house to just like water the plants and do all that sort of stuff and just keep everything ticking over. So these little bags came from inside a slightly bigger bag. So I thought they were ideal personally, particularly this one, as you've got your compartment on the front, and this is where I keep my night items, I would say. So you're talking like if I'm going to spend a night somewhere, and if I'm in a hurry, then I can just grab this and know that I've got anything that I might need, for example, and it keeps the weight down and keeps everything all nice and together, basically, so you're not spreading your junk out everywhere if you go into someone's house. So something that I keep with me, simple bottle, nice little bottle of hand sanitizer, so that obviously is pretty self-explanatory. And as well, because often if I'm going to my friends or going to wherever I'm going, I'll need something like this. I'll be doing a lot of biking or walking, and walk rather than get the bus or however else I travel. That means that having something like this, if I've been out wandering and clambering over fences and stuff all day, is just a nice simple way to, while I'm out and about, obviously clean up. So on the inside here we've got the butty box, which I use for just general storage in a moment, but obviously got my toothbrush, and again I keep these just around with me, like I say. I really couldn't say how many toothbrushes I own and how many there are spread around about a 30-mile radius, I suppose. So if we pop this out, always keep a little notebook with me, because you never know. Sometimes just playing noughts and crosses, stuff like that. But notebooks are always handy. If we open up the butty box here, see we've handily got a few plastic bits of cutlery, a fork and a spoon there, so that's handy. So when it comes to just simple things again, what I will take places with me, so simple thing, hay fever tablets, a few plasters of different sizes. Again, this is tying into the idea that I'll have been out walking very often, so if you rub your ankles or get snagged on some nasty looking hedgerows or something like that, then obviously plasters, different sizes, pretty self-explanatory. travel tablets. I tend to be very travel sick, and I don't really travel actually in vehicles that often, really, I suppose. So keeping something like that, so if I've got any unexpected trips or need to get some, well, again, it's just in case, I suppose. In a similar way, just headache tablets I keep with me. Because again, just in case you find yourself, if you've been out under the sun all day or something like that, start to get a headache, then you're sorted. And I bought a load of these matches. I can't think if I got something like 10 boxes for like 60p or 80p or something like that. So I just keep a little box of matches nice and safely tucked away here. Again, no real specific reason, but you never know, really, I suppose. And that's in a very quick look at some of the items that I have on me on a regular basis, if I can get my words out. But really, things like my toothbrush. Oh, I also keep an inhaler with me as part of my general sort of everyday carry, but that's not actually here, I see. So really, it's just a case of being sensible, I suppose. And again, the amount of time I spend out and about walking and travelling between different places is really how I've come to steadily gather and figure out what I actually need to take with me, and rather than carrying loads of weight and loads of stuff that I used to, like like I say, just a simple example is the keys. That's the perfect example of going, well, I might need all these keys, that's true, but it's unlikely I'm going to need to go to all of these different houses at a moment's notice. So why don't I just leave those somewhere and just take the keys that I need to get into different houses, get into different places, and obviously then not have to worry too much about going, phew, this bag's getting a bit heavy and I've got a bike like 15, 20 miles, I've got to walk like 5 miles out to my friend's house and so on. So really, like I say, there's nothing revolutionary here. It's just really simple, common sense items, I suppose. And like I say, being able to put them all together and keep them just in a drawer or under the bed or whatever, in something like this that's keeping them clean, tidy, out of the way, dry to a certain extent, and then you can just go, well, gonna go off, I think I'll walk out to my friend's house, or I think I might go and stop at my dad's house for a night or two, so I'll grab me bits and pieces and off we go. Toothbrushes, like I say, I've got those spread around a lot of these houses, but keep one in here just in case. Things as well, like I say, with bike pumps and inner tubes, I try and keep those not only like say on the boats and at my mum's house and at my friends' houses. And it's just basically a case of trying to limit the potential of being caught somewhere with a flat tyre and an awful long distance to get back that you've got to push your bike or ride it very delicately on the very bumpy roads that I tend to be on. So I hope that's been interesting or for any reason enlightening. If it has, then, well, that's a bonus. But to be honest, looking at what I've just been talking about, that might be unlikely. But until the next time, I suppose keep it boot-worthy, keep it prepared, and, well, feel free to check out my other videos for loads of the great outdoors and boat life and all that sort of stuff. Till the next time, though, just have an absolutely fantastic day, and of course, farewell.